All right, so on one of my recent videos, I got this comment and I really liked it and I want to share it with you all. Noro says, "Hi Dave, I am 60, used to code in assembler on an IBM mainframe some 30 years ago and wish to tinker with programming again. What would you recommend me to learn? I recently installed RNS NomadNet on Raspberry Pi 3B and I'm proud of myself." So this comment was incredible to me. I asked them if they'd be all right if I made a video on this and actually, instead of just responding over a comment, responded in video form. And they were like, "That would be wonderful, Dave. Greetings from Slovakia." So you know what? Greetings from the US. I think that's so awesome. And I want to talk about that today because I really, really like this. So this is an interesting position to be in because they're 60 years old. They programmed before. They were programming some 30 years ago and they were able to set up some stuff now. So they're not completely new to it. They've just been out of it for a while. So now I need to figure out like, okay, what's all the modern stuff? What can I be setting up here? What should I focus on? What do I do if I want to get back into it? So I'll be totally honest. I had to look up what RNS NomadNet was. I'd heard the name, but I wanted to make sure I knew exactly what it was. So I pulled it up here. I can show you guys. I don't know if this is the exact project, but you can see here, communicate freely, off-grid resilient mesh communication with strong encryption, forward secrecy, and extreme privacy. So honestly, like this project seems really, really cool. So I think that's awesome that you were able to set this up, especially on like a Raspberry Pi. It's super cool. Now, before I jump into some of the ideas I have, I want to talk about why I wanted to make this video. I wanted to share this with my audience because just the fact that you brought up like NomadNet and there's like, you have like cybersecurity, encryption, all that stuff. A lot of that stuff is not my wheelhouse. Yes, I deal with it, but I deal more with like, if you've watched my content, you know, like a lot of programming and sysadmin stuff. I know enough security to get the security guys off my back, but I'm not an expert in it, okay? Like I can explain when you SSH, like the Diffie-Hellman key exchange and stuff like that, but that's like the extent of what I know. I have a WireGuard set up at home and maybe, oh man, maybe that'd be a fun video. Would you guys want to see how to like set up a WireGuard system at home so you guys can VP into that? We're already getting off topic. Let's get back on topic. So I know a little bit about that stuff, but this is not exactly in my wheelhouse. So I can give you some suggestions that are a little bit related to this, but I think my audience can help give you suggestions that are more related to the kind of projects you like. So that's my hope in making this video. I'll give you some ideas that I have, and especially for people that are just getting into tech, maybe they've been in it before, they haven't been in for a while, they're older now, and they worked on it some 20, 30 years ago. I want to make this video for them, and I'll talk about some of the projects I think are cool, but at the same time, I want my audience to be able to weigh in because there are a ton of smart people in my audience, a ton of people from different backgrounds, and I think they can help too. So hopefully we can stir up some good conversations in the comment. So obviously, first things first. Okay, I have to do this one. This one's going to be kind of a meme, but if you want to get better at bash scripting, can you believe that I have a full course you can take on bash scripting? It's a 7-hour video on YouTube. It's completely free. You can go learn that stuff. I have to shill that one. Of course. But no, in all seriousness, if you're comfortable like adminning a system, especially on like a Raspberry Pi or something like that, I think systems like that are probably fun to deal with. So if you set up like NomadNet, you might also be interested in setting up maybe some remote SSH server on it that you could expose to the internet. Or one of the things I always found fun, especially when I was first getting used to this, is having like a server that sits on like maybe my home network or something, or even some network on like a VPS or something, some virtual private system. Having some sort of system that's exposed to the internet. So that could be port forwarding it through your router, whatever you're comfortable with. Also, of course, security concerns. You're making it accessible to the outside world, so be careful with that. But having like a server that you could WireGuard into, so maybe setting up the WireGuard servers if you've never done that before, or even SSH proxying into, I love projects like that. So for example, my laptop, whenever I bring my laptop to like a coffee shop, WireGuard kicks on immediately, connects back to my home network, and then all of my traffic is sent securely through my home network. That's a really fun project to work on. If you were not comfortable with WireGuard, even just having an SSH server accessible, you could do something like proxy into it. So SSH was a capital D, I think, to set up some sort of SOCKS proxy, and then you can set up your web browser to go through a SOCKS proxy and proxy all your traffic through an SSH tunnel. I think stuff like that's cool. And of course, you know, it's parallel to like cybersecurity, encryption, stuff like that. Another project I think is super cool. If you want something that does everything for you, I would say look into Home Assistant, but in general, like setting up and configuring IoT devices is super fun. For instance, my garage door opener, I can control it from my phone and that goes through Home Assistant. I use a lot of IoT devices from the company Shelly. I'm not sponsored by them, but they make IoT devices that connect to Wi-Fi and I love that. I think that's great. I don't need to manage Z-Wave or what's the other Z-Wave? The one that Hugh uses, Zigbee, the other Z-Wave. Yeah, my X11 devices or whatever. X10. No, X11's the Windows server. X10 devices. Oh my god, I'm getting all confused. X10 became Z-Wave, right? And then Zigbee something totally different. I don't know. You guys will have to correct me in the comments. I'm just showing my age here. I love IoT devices. I love using the Shelly ones because they just connect to Wi-Fi, and I find that so easy to manage. I don't have to worry about Z-Wave. I don't have to worry about Zigbee. We can talk about congestion on wireless networks all day long. I got my little Unify thing up here. I have one outside. I'm pointing in all the wrong directions. I'm looking at my OBS right now, so I'm trying to point in the direction that makes sense when I should just be thinking, okay, if I want to point outside, I just point there. Content creation is so much more difficult than you guys know. Sometimes I point in the wrong direction. But no, I think like IoT devices, setting up things like that are super fun. I believe Home Assistant can run on a Raspberry Pi. I think they have it all Dockerized now to the point where it's super easy to set up. Or with Shelly, because they're just Wi-Fi, you don't even need to go through Home Assistant. I have a series of bash scripts that use curl to manage upgrading them and things like that. So I love doing things like that. Obviously, the Shelly devices, they have like smart plugs. So I'll have like a light that's plugged into something. And then from curl, I can just type a curl command, hit enter, and then a light will turn on and off. In fact, you know what? I'll show you real quick. Because take a look at these. Take a look at these Christmas lights. See the Christmas lights that are on this beam right here? And the Christmas lights that are here, the colored lights? Those are actually on a Shelly control switch. So I'll show you real quick. All right, here you go. Let's log into the machine I like to do this work on. I can just log into any machine that I have configured here. I'm gonna show you guys some insider stuff that I don't show. Let's see, up to custom Etsy distro Shelly. This is from configuration management that I wrote. Here are all of my Shelly devices. So there's a lot here, like a lot. So let's go ahead and get this list down a little bit. Let's grep for the plugs. Here are the plugs we have: screen room, patio, living room, bedroom. Here we go. Living room Christmas lights plug. So let's go ahead and grab this name. That's a real host name. I could do a host on it, and you can see that we have an IP address of 10.0.5.58. That will be my IoT Wi-Fi I have set up specifically for IoT devices, so they can't communicate with the internet. They can't even talk to each other. But I can talk to it because I'm on a management network. So let's go ahead and let's curl into that. I'm going to see if I remember how to do this, okay? We can curl this whole long thing and that'll work. We can also use the IP address. We might use the IP address because the prompt's going to get a little gnarly. RPC switch.toggle, I think. I have to remember this off the top of my head. Switch.toggle. This is how Shelly works. And missing required argument ID. Let's go ahead. Let's do this real quick. Let's grab the IP address instead of the host name. The host name works just fine. It's just, look how long that prompt is. That's super annoying. There we go. Let's curl this. And it's missing the ID. Okay, so we have to do ID. I think there's only one switch on, so ID equals 0. And there we go. Look at the lights up there. You see the lights up there? They just turned off. Why did I move the terminal? We'll just append a new line there. But take a look. I run it. And it toggles the lights on and off. The lights take a little bit to turn on and off. That's just the lights themselves, not the actual switch. I don't know if you can actually hear the clicking. The relay clicks, it's right over there, but yeah. So that gets turned on and off automatically for me. Home Assistant takes care of this. But if you wanted to, you could do it all yourself. I love these little devices. They're so fun to work with. They have such a simple little interface. Yes, some of them are accessible without any sort of authentication. Some of them do have authentication, like ones that control doors and stuff. I'm a little bit more locked down than this. But for a light, if you're on my network and you're on my admin network, then you can control the lights. So I think that's pretty cool. So yeah, of course, the other fun thing is if you're doing with a Raspberry Pi, I wonder if you've ever done any like Arduino stuff, because the Raspberry Pi can be a nice gateway into Arduinos, because the Raspberry Pi has the, the GPIO pins, the general purpose input output pins. Start looking into those. I think those are super cool. You can start with the really basic project of, I can turn on and off an LED. And then next thing you know, you're suddenly dimming an LED, and then you're learning about pulse width modulation. And then you find yourself buying a breadboard, learning how to solder, and making really cool things like when I press this button, I can trigger a relay which can turn on, like lights in my house or something. Be careful with that, obviously, when you're dealing with mains electricity. I prefer to buy smart plugs because then I don't have to touch any of that stuff. But those are cool ideas. I definitely think that's like a fun thing to go down the Arduino, like hardware hacking style thing, if that's what you're into. If you're into more like, programming in general, of course, on this channel I've covered it, but people have made video games in Bash. Learning how to make games is super duper fun. If you've watched my channel before, you know that I'm friends with Bad Cop. She does a lot of game stuff. She loves making games. So like that is a ton of fun if you're getting into programming. I think it's super fun. It's tough. Don't be overwhelmed, or be overwhelmed. Maybe that's actually appropriate to say. Video games are tough. Do not go into a video game thinking, oh, I'll just make this and this will be easy. No, because you have artwork, you have music, you have programming. If you're like, I know how to program, I can just make a game. It's so much more than that. I'm begging you. If you think gaming is going to be easy, it's not. But if you think gaming is immensely hard and completely gatekept, also don't think that way, because it's more approachable now than it has ever been. But even being so approachable, it's still a hard thing to do because there's so much that goes into it, but the end product is just amazing. I assume I've never actually made a full-fledged game myself, so but I've seen how many people feel so accomplished after making one. So that is totally a fun thing to put your time and energy into. And I think the last thing, like the one of the simplest things to do is you have a Raspberry Pi, just start making some sort of fun things for your home network. Like you could set up a, what do they call it? I forget what I think it's called a Pi hole. It's like a DNS plus ad blocking plus all sorts of things like this. I love running my own DNS server. I love running my own DHCP server. When someone connects to my Wi-Fi, I get a notification on my phone saying that a new DHCP lease was given, and it shows me their MAC address and their IP address. That has been the best thing that I have ever created for myself. Because when I'm setting up a new server, I'm setting up a new computer, and I, plug in the network for the first time, I plug in that network port, I get a message on my phone almost immediately saying, hey, new lease was given out. Here is the IP address and here is the MAC address. So almost immediately I can just look at my phone and be like, okay, that's how I SSH in this machine. Super easy, super simple. Those are just some random ideas I have. I would say jump into whatever one of those sounds fun to you. And of course, hopefully if you're in my audience and you have some fun ideas here, I know a lot of you guys will, feel free to leave them below. I think it'd be super helpful. The community here is awesome. If you want more help, obviously join the Discord. I'll have a link to it in my description. You can do that. And yeah, so I wish you luck. Congratulations on coming back into programming, getting back into it. So I'm excited for you. I think it's going to be super cool. And yeah, of course, I got to give a shout out to my patrons over at Patreon. Thank you so much for your continued support. I appreciate it. You guys are awesome. I think that's super cool. If you want your name at the end of my videos, go ahead and sign up for my Patreon. If you don't want to give me money, hey, you know what? I respect it. Just go ahead and hit the subscribe button. That helps a ton. At the time of this recording, we were trying to hit 100,000 subscribers. Oopsie, Future Dave here. We hit that. So we actually hit 100,000 subscribers. I went live. I shared that moment with everyone. It was a ton of fun. You can check out the VOD if you want to watch it. Take a look at this right here. Look at this. We already have over 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. So thank you everyone for subscribing. Just letting you know that I recorded this video maybe like 1 or 2 weeks ago. So that's what's going on there. Yeah, back to the old outdated outro. We have 99,000 subscribers. So there's a good chance that when you're watching this, I already have 100,000 subscribers, but you should still click subscribe anyways. I don't even know why I brought this up. Forget it. Actually, just imagine that I have way less than 100,000 subscribers and you're the one bringing me there, okay? I'm just kidding. I don't know. That's all I got. Hopefully this video was helpful. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. See ya.